tell me we've put that horn away, right? You're not going to pull the horn out on me. I'd do better with just a raise your hand. Christen, you're almost done. I'm really excited to be here. Happy Friday. What a great way to start our Friday and start our day here at the Speed Art Museum. I'm surrounded by art and architecture and all of our creative people, and excited about learning from each other, about giving back to each other, and thinking about how we build a stronger future together. How many of you all knew the Speed Art Museum before the renovation? I remember growing up and driving past the Speed Art Museum and these columns and visiting, but those columns and the way that it was structured, that old, really didn't feel as inviting. I remember coming to the grand opening of the Speed Art Museum the night, and I had goosebumps when I walked up and saw this new place. And I just want to say thank you to the Speed Art Museum and to Stephen and to your team for really opening this place up in a really new way, for making it a place where we bring community. You knew I'd do it, get that in there. Community together, from the cinema to the after hours to Owsley Sundays. This place has been one of those institutions that has really helped Louisville to begin to think differently about how we bring community together. I also want to say thank you to Ben and to all of the team at Creative Mornings for giving us a place once a month where we can come together and challenge each other, where we can come together as a creative community to think about what we want this place that we live in to be. And I'm really excited to be able to talk about community today. I was talking to Ben, and he said, Christen, we'd love to have you come and speak at Creative Mornings. And I said, great. I'm not the most eloquent speaker. I'm not a creative myself. I'm not an artist like you guys. I support art. And so we got to talking about what those topics might be. And we talked about, he said, here's a bunch of themes: future, change, evolution, past, energy. I said, yeah, I think, I could connect that to. He said community, and my heart just leapt, and I said, that's my word, because that's the word that I get most excited about. And what I want to tell you today is a little bit about what I believe about community, about my story and my path, and give you some challenges as well. And I believe that art and arts, whether it's film, whether it's visual, whether it's theater, has a place to build community for us. And throughout, when I talk to you today, I'm going to sprinkle in a lot of great images, a lot of great art images, because I believe that helps to push us, to help us tell our stories, but to better understand our stories together. And great public art can help build strong communities. This is a piece. How many of you all have seen this piece? This is an incredibly powerful piece done by the French street artist J.R. And this is at the Mexican-U.S. border. And there is probably no more current barrier that we're talking about right now. And we all have them in our communities and in our lives. But when we think about how art can really extend across borders and across barriers, this is a piece also at the U.S.-American border by the artist Soul Guy. And this is a table where he has created the artwork on a table across the border, the U.S. side on the left, the Mexican side on the right, with eyes looking up, and they're having dinner around this table. And they've found a way to create community, even across a barrier and a wall, as powerful as that. When I think about what we're doing, I think about all of our different roles and how each of us have different gifts. I'm going to do this one. I'm going to try some technology in a few minutes, but right now we're going to do the old-fashioned way. Raise your hands. So how many of you all consider yourselves artists in the room? How many of you all are visual artists, paint or sculpture? All right, where are my photographers, my multimedia? Do I have some musicians in the room? Thespians? Yeah, we got a few of them. They always speak out. I love it. Dancers. All right, so anybody, like, we all know we're creatives, but how many of you all just sing in the shower? Like, I sing in the shower and I dance in the kitchen with my kids. That is my creative talent. But it helps us to get a sense of where we are. And like Ben said, Creative Mornings is a community, but this is only one of our communities. And I looked in to see how we would define community, because I thought it would be, it's always helpful to start with a place of shared understanding. And this definition says it's a place where members have a feeling of belonging, a feeling that members matter to one another and to the group, and a shared faith that members' needs will be met through their commitment to be together. Now, I think all of us, when we're born, are born into communities of different kinds. And I start with, when I heard this felt really to me like family. It really spoke to me as family. So I grew up here in Louisville. I grew up in the south end of Louisville. I'm in Pleasure Ridge Park. I was born to two young parents. My mom was 19 and my dad was 20. My dad immediately went into the family business, which is washing cars. And I am the oldest of three girls. And one of my most meaningful, my favorite roles in my life is as a big sister. And so when I think about that I'm looking out for one another, I think about that role. You can see I'm the one with the big mouth. I've always had a big mouth. It's just, and these are my sisters. And it was the first place that for me, I began to have that feeling and understanding not just that my needs would be met, but that I had responsibility to others as well. The next definition that I found is one that takes that one step further. And it's about the interdependence and the willingness of that interdependence. And I love this, because those of you all that know what I do, which is I invite a lot of people to invest both dollars and time, is giving and or doing for others with the idea that that will then be given back to you. And that creates a dependence and a stable structure. I don't know about any of you all, but this sounds very much to me like the golden rule. But it also, what we don't say in the golden rule that this says, is that actually works because it creates stability for all of us. It's not just that you give so that you'll get, it's that you give and get, and when that works together, then you create stability. And that's what community is about. So for me, when I think about my path, after I graduated from Pleasure Ridge Park High School, I went to the University of Kentucky, and I began to find my way in my work life. And at the time, I didn't know, I wasn't one of those people that always knew what I wanted to do. How many of you all know right now what you want to be when you grow up? Because I'm still growing up, and I still don't know, and I'm still figuring it out. I worked in Atlanta at the Olympics. I went to Cincinnati. One of my first jobs was at the Fund for the Arts in my early 20s. But one of the great opportunities was to be able to work at Actors Theater of Louisville. And I know everybody in this room loves actor. I'm looking at Dot. I've got some Actors Theater alums in the room and some current. But when we think about theater, just like public art, we think about it as a place where people have shared experiences, they learn about each other, they begin to invest in each other, and they create community. So I was at Actors Theater, and I got a call about a little project called 21st Century Parks and the Parklands of Floyd's Fork. So how many of you all have been out to the Parklands? Awesome. For those of you that haven't, I want you this weekend to hop in the car, go just past the Watersend Expressway, and visit this incredible place. But when it was told to me, Dan Jones, who is the son of Dan Jones is the son of David Jones, the co-founder of Humana. And Dan said, Christen, I've got this really big idea. And he rolled out this 6-foot map. And he said, here's this beautiful creek called Floyd's Fork. It's just outside of the Gene Snyder, which for those of you all that are just either not from Louisville or getting to know, it's our second ring, our second highway around the city. It's just outside of that. And he said, we've got this little piece of land, we've got some land over here, and we've got land up here. My vision is that we're going to connect all of that, and we're going to create this major metropolitan park. He said, I don't know if it's going to take us 20 years or 40 years or 6, but will you come on it? And I said, that's an incredible vision. He said, what Frederick Law Olmsted did 100 years ago when he built Central Parks and these our own Olmsted parks is you build green infrastructure ahead of development. And I said, I'm in. Who do I need to talk to? And so I was sitting with a board member, and I was in my interview, and the board member said to me, Christen, we're looking for somebody who's passionate about parks. Are you passionate about parks? And I said, I like parks. I really like parks. In fact, I would say I love parks. I said, but I'll tell you, if you're looking for somebody who's passionate about parks, then you might be looking for somebody else. But if you're looking for somebody who's passionate about what parks can do for community, then that's me. And that's what I want to sign up for. And it was at that moment that my why really spoke to me. And I hadn't said it that way before, and I hadn't understood it that way before. But when I said it, I said, that's what I feel about theater too. And even in fact, my role at the Fund for the Arts now, that's what I feel about that, is that it's not about the park. It's not about the theater. It's not about the art. It's about what those things do in and for our community, our communities that make a difference. And when we strip away the art and we strip away those buildings, we think about who it is that we're doing that for. So Simon Sinek has really risen this idea of our why. We talk about what we do and why we do it. I think the next layer of that is who are you doing it for? Who is the theater for? Who are the arts for? Who are the parks for? And when you get to that, you begin to look around at the people around you, and you begin to think, how do I best serve and connect and bring my gifts to my community or my communities? And I had a friend not long after that looked at me and said, you're doing it. And I said, doing what? And he goes, don't you remember that road trip to Nashville our senior year of college? And we were talking about what we're going to be when we grow up. And you said, I don't know what I'm going to be, but I know I want to make a difference in the community that is meaningful to me, the community that I grew up in. He said, you're doing it. And I said, that's really interesting, because 25 years ago, I didn't realize that was where I wanted to be. But it's a journey, right? And we're all on it every day together. This is one of my favorite pieces. This is made of garbage, and it's at a landfill in Brazil. So when you think about art and how it tells stories, and how what we thought was trash tells stories about who we are and who we can be. So I now have the great privilege of being involved in this community. And in my work at the Fund for the Arts, we work in all different parts. I am, when I think about my community and my communities, I think about that in lots of different ways. I think about that I am a part of the greater Louisville community. I am a part of the business community, the arts community, the philanthropic community, the creative community, the CreativeMornings community. And I think about the way that we have the opportunity to bring arts to bear in those conversations. And we have the great privilege at the Fund for the Arts to be involved in these because of so many support. I also have other communities. I am also, beyond my work, a part of communities at home. I'm the mom, I'm a wife, I'm also a mom of 3 young boys. I am a part of a neighborhood community, a part of a church community, a part of their school community. I'm a PTA mom, although I'm not very good at it sometimes. I'm usually that mom at PTA, if you know what I mean. That mom that doesn't always show up, and that mom who's always late with the cupcakes. But that's another story. But when I think about that, I think, what are your communities? And I'm still a big sister as well. So Monica Beaver's with the Fund for the Arts. It's going to see if we can figure out a little bit of technology interactive and see if we can make that work. So, question. What communities are you a part of? Is that the first one? So throw out whatever community or communities, because I think this is the part where we begin to understand that we are a part of lots of different communities. And if it works, we will see those come up. And I think what it will do is both help us understand that we are a part of each other's communities, but in this room, we also have so many, many more. Axe throwing community. We've got learning communities and graphic communities, designers, medical, startup. This is what our greater community is a part of, right? This is what pulls together our greater community. We've got some gamers and some yogis, some Dungeons and Dragons. Who knew? All right. So let's think about where many of our communities, we think that many of them start, is in a geographic community. As we think about community, we keep thinking about this. What about parts of geographic community? How many of you were born in Louisville? How many of you all don't live in Louisville now? I got a handful of you. How many of you all are 40204, 40206, 40207, 40213, 40218, 40223, 40159. So throw out some other zip codes at me. 40203, 40205, 40219. That's awesome. Do we have anybody who, besides our people who are from out of town, who live in, how many of you are Southern Indiana? I got a few. Any Shelby County? Couple. What about Bullitt? We got, my husband grew up in Bullitt County, so I always have to throw that one in there. But I think what's fun, if we can go back to thank you, Monica, is to think about, oftentimes when we think about community, right, we think about how communities are built upon geographic. And there is an article in The Atlantic recently that was talking about how what we knew about communities was where you were born, so towns, neighborhoods, and now that with the rise of our online communities, we have very different understanding of what that means. And one of the things I want to challenge you to think about is, what communities are you a part of now? Do they look like you? Do they think like you? And how many communities, when you think about getting bigger, how can you open up your arms to the bigger community beyond that? Are you comfortable in your communities? And are there ways that you can get outside of your comfort zone to be able to have greater impact in a broader community as well? So recently, what has happened is when we have the rise of globalism, the rise of technology, all good things, it's forced us to be more self-reliant. We've moved away from towns and neighborhoods that are looking out for each other. And we've had to become arguably more self-interested. But what that does, when we look at the sense of community, is it doesn't support a thriving opportunity for all. So how do we think about that? There's a book called The Big Sort, and I encourage you to pull it out. And The Big Sort says that in America now, we have allowed ourselves to be able to divide ourselves by neighborhood, by theology, by ideology. In this room, we're really excited because we have a community of creatives. How are we thinking about the people that don't look like us or think like us? First, how do we have a community where we feel comfortable and that support us for who we are? And then, how do we think about getting out beyond that to the people that maybe don't think or look like us? And what is our responsibility to a stronger community when we do that? So I want to just make some suggestions about how we all might do that. And I say we because it's something that I think we all continue to need to work on every day. So first, I think we need to challenge our assumptions about what community means. We have our small communities. How do we also think about our role in a bigger community? And I would say the way that we do that is we stay curious, and we ask questions, and we listen to others, and we put ourselves in uncomfortable situations, and we have some risky conversations. And I think that in our different communities, because we will have small and we will have large communities, there is a different role that our different communities will need us to play at different times. So sometimes your community may need you to lead, and other times being a great leader means knowing when to follow. And how can you use your gifts, whether it's your art, whether it's your creativity, whether it's your Excel prowess, to be able to have a better impact in your communities and in your community? And I would say one of the first things is to step up, to actually raise your hand, and then to invite others to follow. I think oftentimes when we think about activism, we think about leadership, we think about community, we think a lot about speaking up and standing up, but I would encourage you also to think about how do you bring others with you. And most importantly, it's bringing others with you who don't often think like you, look like you, to be able to push this. I also think it's really important to think about how do you look out for each other, because I think that's the part of community that can be the most powerful and the most rewarding for all of us, is when we create a place where you're actually looking out for each other. So one of the things I just want you to think about is, what is your role? How are you looking out for others? And in the past 25 years, I have found that one of the things that's most important to me is not about the art that we create. It's not about the parks. It's not about the buildings. But it's about who we do it for. And so really looking around at the people in our communities and in the people in our bigger community to think about how do we make this a place where we can give to them, they give back to us, and we create a stronger, more vibrant opportunity together. At the Fund for the Arts, we're really proud to be able to be a part of that, and I'm so privileged to be able to be a part of having that conversation and being with you today. What I want to start with is to say, I believe in people, and I believe in people helping people, and I believe in you all, and I believe in the future that we can create together. And what I want to do is to say that it's our responsibility as the creative class to be able to speak up, to be able to bring people with you, to bring people together, and to look out for others. And so today, I want to end with the opportunity to invite some conversation, to ask you to say, what are the communities that you are a part of, and what role might you want to play differently? And what of the challenges today, the kinds of things that resonated with you that you want to take a next step on, and what might that look like? I think we can do that in a conversation and a question and answer period. Ben, does that sound like a good next step for us? Or we also had the I need and I offer out on the plaza. I'm really excited to see that because that is exactly the kind of opportunity to give and to receive and to create a stronger community together. So I'd love to have anybody that wants to jump in and to say what maybe what I've said today kind of resonated with you. And if anybody was ready to say what their next step might be in that.
Might give a round of applause for Christen to... So we have time for 2 or 3 questions. So if you've got one or a comment or something you want to respond to, go ahead and stand up and shout it out. That's no big deal. There's 450 people here. Back there in the back? That's you? Yeah? Yeah.
Okay, I'm part of like a lot of communities and stuff, and like this one is very like nice. I love how everyone comes together. But when we were having this topic talking about the community, it touched me because like I've been talking to so many people who love to join communities, but for some reason they can't find themselves within it. Like how can you try to help those people try to find themselves inside a community and accept those things?
I think it's the give and receive. I think it's the give and receive. I think to be, to feel and to feel belonging in a community, part of it is learning to give first and being ready to receive. And so I think it's one of those classic, you get out of it what you put into it, and that is life, and that is community, and that is whatever that is. I also think it's being willing to really throw yourself into it, and then when it doesn't feel as if you are receiving and it's that feeling, then you go and you visit another. So I think it's also being willing to take risk.
Other questions or comments? In the back.
We're inspired by what the Fund for the Arts does. How do we get involved, or what are some ways to get involved?
Oh, it's a plant. Thanks for that. Yeah, I got it. We would love to have, to be able to, we are great connectors. So at the Fund for the Arts, we believe in the opportunity to connect people with their passion, with artists, with the opportunity to change community. And so that means everywhere from being able to connect you with volunteer opportunities, to connect you with arts organizations big and small, and to be able to be a part of, certainly, inviting others to join the work that we do as well. So you can visit any of us, you can find me, or you can call us at Fund for the Arts.
That's great. I'd love to ask the final questions because you've talked about community and connecting, and there's this like crazy rumor that Fund for the Arts works with the Jennifer Lawrence Foundation. I get all these emails about when can Jennifer Lawrence come and speak at Creative Mornings. There's 450 people here. Just to save me those emails, connection, community, Jennifer Lawrence, Creative Mornings.
I'll work on it. How about that? I'll work on it.
That's great. So give a round of applause for Christen Boone.